Microphone is live.
The,
The microphone on.
Careful.
Oh, wait, do you have a microphone on your?
that one's for the Zoom,
Oh, okay,
The
I was
one that
talking
he's
about the
wearing
one on the
is-
stand.
is so I can get it on here for the recording.
Two items. Anybody recognize these? Okay, all right.
What do they have on?
Pictures from the last,
Well, that might be a clue as to who they belong to.
I'll take a look. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Second, for the next newsletter, I would like to feature photos from the library show. How many of you have photographs in the library show?
Looks good.
Yeah, it's a good show. 32, I think, 32 photos.
Like that.
Yeah. So if you have something in the show, and I'll send a note out to everybody asking. If you have something in the show, send me your file so we can make a library show newsletter. Because not everybody is going to be there to see what everybody has done. Second, if you are in the show, make sure on October 31st, you pick your photographs up. I don't know what the library does with them if you don't get them. But anyway, that's the deadline. Oh, Chris. And the challenge. Yeah. And the challenge for November is slow shutter speed. Intentional camera movement is allowed. So get your cameras working on that. And I think I shared the challenges for next year already. Photo challenges based on movie themes. The whole list is in the newsletter, so you can start thinking about, well, some like it hot. How are you going to photograph that? It's a Wonderful Life, The Sound of Music, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's what I want to see. My Fair Lady, City Lights, High Noon, Airplane, Moonstruck, A Patch of Blue, On the Waterfront, and Toy Story. They're all in the newsletter, but I thought I'd give you plenty of time to get your thinking caps going. And we'll have some fun with that, I hope. I don't have too much else other than to welcome our speaker, Harold. Harold, you're on. You're on.
And we have, I don't know, is anybody having problems here today? Some people have problems hearing, and that's why I set up the microphone that's on the stand.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right behind you. Is anybody having problems hearing?
It's good. Not so far.
Okay.
Okay.
Behind the mic, I guess you can hear me. It's a small room with a few people, so probably don't even need a mic.
About not hearing, so.
Okay, well, if you can't hear us, just,
I'm good.
if you're asleep, I won't wake you up.
Should we turn the lights off?
Yeah, it'd probably be better to dim them a little bit.
Okay. Does anybody have trouble with this facility, finding this facility? I mean, we had a good crowd last time, it's a little slimmer this time. But we like the situation, and the screen is better than anything we've ever had at a library.
Can you go full screen on that? Make it easier to see?
So we like the screen here.
I guess that's big enough. All righty. I'm going to talk about going on safari. I've gone on 7 safaris now, kind of gotten hooked. I'm a wildlife photographer, so that's kind of the primo trip for me. And later on in this, I'll show you pictures of some of all the different animals and creatures you can photograph there. But I'm just going to go through the basics of going on a safari and what's involved, and it's a little more involved trip than a lot of others. This the background, that's the Zambezi River in Zambia. You can see the little sandbars. Some of them are still underwater, some are above, so it makes kind of a cool photograph. That was taken from a small Cessna plane. Okay,
Not moving.
nope. Do I need to be closer? Should I stand on this side?
Try to stand over.
Okay. Everybody see okay?
Not then I can move forward.
Okay, next slide. Is it on slideshow? Should be. All right. These are our two favorite places to go in Africa. We've been, like I said, 7 times. We go to Botswana and Zambia quite a bit because I just think the experience there is kind of what we like. We like to be out kind of remote where we don't see a lot of other humans. You know, the camps we go to are out kind of in the middle of nowhere. Takes a while to get there. There are other experiences. If you go to South Africa, you can stay in a regular hotel just outside a game park, get up in the morning, you know, and drive into the park. But that's not the way we like to do. We like to actually go out, stay remote out in the middle of the park somewhere. And I'll show you some of the facilities. Botswana, you can go north at the end and go to Victoria Falls and a lot of places to go. Did that change?
Yeah.
Oh, it worked. Okay. A lot of places to go in Africa. Zambia, Botswana are our favorite. We've been to Tanzania. We're going to Namibia in 2026 for a future trip. Kenya and South Africa, been to South Africa. Lots of places to go. There's also Uganda and some other places you can go see gorillas and other stuff, which I haven't done. Planning can get a little complicated for Africa because you got internal flights. If you're going to these remote camps, you're going out remote. You have to book the camps at certain dates. You need to book the little flights, which are on small, either Cessna or small 10-seater plane. So we use an agency to book the internal, you know, just book the camp for us and book the internal flights. We book the flight from the US over to usually Johannesburg or wherever we're going to go to. But the flights, we normally go through Johannesburg, which we fly usually Delta to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Johannesburg. Atlanta to Johannesburg is 16 hours. So that's a pretty brutal flight. So what we usually do, we get to Johannesburg and we end up just staying the night there because by then we're pretty wiped out. And then in the morning we get up and we fly a local airplane up to Zambia, Botswana, wherever we're going to go, and then start our trip there. There are more diseases over there. Most shots you don't have to worry about. You can go to a travel clinic and they'll talk you into getting a yellow fever and some other things, but the key thing you need to worry about is probably malaria. Even though there's a small chance you'll get it, you don't want to get malaria. So what most doctors give you now are doxycycline, which is basically just a strong antibiotic. Start taking it a couple days before, take it through the whole trip, and that'll keep you from getting malaria. It might also help if you pick up a couple of bugs from food or something else, kill that too. So there's another drug, I can't remember the name of it now for malaria, but you don't want to take it because it's got some weird side effects. The doxycycline, if you go, that's probably the only thing you're probably going to need to take for the trip.
How long are your trips?
Usually 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's usually 2 days to get there. We have a day basically getting to Johannesburg, and then the next day we're getting up and flying up to usually the capital of, you know, Botswana or Zambia, and then from there we take a small plane out to the camp. So by the time you get to the camp, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's basically 2 days to get there, and then we usually go to about 3 camps. The last trip we only did 2 for more nights, but we usually do 3 or 4 nights in each camp. So usually 10 to 12 nights in camp and then, you know, 2 days traveling. So it ends up being a little over a 2-week trip. And you can adjust that. You can stay less. What to bring? My backpack with my camera stuff weighs a ton. My wife can't even pick it up. You're going to need plug adapters because the outlets are different. It doesn't have the 2-prong like here. It's either got the round pin or some of the others. So you have to make sure you bring one of those so you can get power to charge your batteries for your camera and everything. Plug strip. I bring a plug strip. but it has to be rated for 240 volt because it's 240 volt there. Now, if you bring a 120 power strip, it'll just blow out the fuse. But you can get them online. They're pretty cheap. And then you just need one plug. There's usually not that many plugs available in the camps anyway. So then you can plug, your battery and your phone and some other things in there too. Some people like to just take pictures with their phone. Clothing, we don't bring a lot of clothes. They want you to bring a soft bag because you're flying a small airplane at the end and they want a soft bag. We usually bring at the most 4 or 5 days worth of clothes. They will wash them in the camp. So they'll, everything except women's underwear, they'll wash. You have to do that in the sink, but they'll wash everything else. And we just do that and just kind of rotate the clothes. Yeah, well, they're men doing it. I guess it's their, I don't know what the thing is, but it does get cool. The temperature there actually, when we go, is kind of like it was here last week. It was warm during the day and cool at night. So you'll want to bring a fleece or something warmer at night because it does get cool at night. And then the daytime, it warms up pretty fast and usually high 70s for the time we go.
What time of year?
We used to go anywhere from June to September. You don't want to go in the rainy season, although you could go in the rainy season, but you can't get around very well in the rainy season because everything's flooded. There's water everywhere. A lot of the camps they even take down at the end of the season because it's underwater. But June to September is usually the best time to go, and we usually go June, July-ish. This year when we went.
Well, that's wintertime there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different. The winter is drier and it's not really that cold. It gets down maybe 50 at night, low 50s at night, just like it was last week here.
Okay.
Almost exactly the same.
Do you call photos while you're there, or do you just jam everything onto your hard drive?
I do both.
Both. Okay.
I bring my laptop and my mouse and charger and everything. And I have this, you can see the little backup thing. It's like a 1 or 2 terabyte little SSD backup. I use that. And at the end of the day, I copy the stuff on the computer and then I back it up on old pictures onto that before I do anything with them, just to make sure. You go on a trip like that, you don't want to lose your photos. Yep. That's exactly it. They're small, easy to carry, and there's, 1, 2 terabyte. They're not that expensive. Mosquito repellent, depending on the time of year you go. If you're close to the rainy season, there might be more mosquitoes, but the last trip we went on, it was the end of June, early July this year when we were in Zambia, and I don't even remember seeing a mosquito. I didn't use any repellent at all. If you have a small LED flashlight, that can be useful because there's not much light there. Your tent does have a little bit of power and light, but you probably want a little flashlight if you want to get up, go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I know being older, I get up in the middle of the night. So that's good to bring. And a hat, because the sun is pretty intense there. You can get pretty good sunburn, especially if you're taking doxycycline. It makes you a little more sensitive to the sun. So I just wear kind of one of these floppy hats and keeps the sun off my face. This is just a recommendation for a book. You're going to see a lot of things. This is a great book. It's got a lot of birds, lots of mammals, plants, insects, everything. It's a great little book. It's not very big, easy to carry, and it helps you identify a lot of things. That's me and my lovely wife with a floppy hat on. This was taken on a, you can do walks too. We drive out to a location and then we get out of the truck and walk. Usually have a guide with us, and one of the guides usually has a rifle just in case we run into a predator.
You say
You can see there's an elephant off in the distance there.
you say you drive. I mean, do you really drive or?
No, we don't drive. They have trucks. I'll show you a picture of a truck in a minute. But the guides drive the truck. And you see I don't remember what lens, that's probably my 400 on that picture. This is basically a lot of stuff I bring. I bring 2 camera bodies. I have a main body and a backup body. Because I get that far, if something happens to the camera, then you're kind of SOL. So I always have a backup. And also, I don't want to be changing the lenses when I'm out on a safari because it can be very dusty and your sensor will get covered with a bunch of crap. So usually I take my main camera with my 600 millimeter, my long lens, and then my backup camera, I just have my wide angle, 16 to 35 or whatever. And then I usually bring an intermediate range. I've got like an 85 millimeter prime. I think it's a 1.4, which when it gets towards dusk or early morning when it's not so bright, I get the light. The 600 millimeter is not so great on the fringes when it starts getting a little darker. Memory cards, I usually bring quite a few of them. The little SD 64 gig cards are great. I usually have about 6 or 7 or 8 of them. I generally take about 4,000 or 5,000 pictures each time I go. And of course, you should bring extra batteries and the battery charger. It's dusty, so you want to bring one of those little bubble blowers just to blow the dust off. Cleaning cloth and all that. And of course, camera strap, which half the time I take off anyway because I'm in the truck and strap usually just gets in the way. Accommodations. Like I said before, my wife and I, we like to go a little more remote. You can go to South Africa and other places where you can stay in a regular hotel outside the park, and then they come pick you up in the morning and you drive into the park and do all that, but you really don't get the experience. So we like going out in the middle of nowhere. You get there, you usually fly into the capital of the country like Lusaka in Zambia, and then from there you take a little plane, which is usually a small Cessna or a little 10-seater, and it takes you out to a little dirt runway in the middle of nowhere. Then they come pick you up in the truck and they drive you to the camp. And you're out all, morning and all afternoon, and you don't usually see other people or other trucks, which is what I like. Makes you feel more remote. When we were in Tanzania, we were in one area and we pulled up and there was a bunch of lions there. So we pulled over. The guy got in the radio and told one of the other drivers there was lions. In 5 minutes, there were like 6 or 7 trucks all around him, and it just didn't feel right. I didn't really like that. This is one of the tents we stayed in. It's usually a lot of them have a canvas, like military type tent, and then they use the reeds and bamboo and some wood to build a little structure around it. This is what some of them, that's what they look like on the inside. They're not roughing it. It's got a nice bed. It's pretty comfortable. It's got, normal bathroom. You can see the one camp had a tub with a view of the river, so you can just sit in the tub and watch the hippos and the crocs and the elephants walking around. The tents were situated in a way so there wouldn't be other people walking behind it, watching it take a bath. The bottom one on the right, I don't know if this pointer works. I can see. It doesn't show up on the screen. The bottom on the right it's like a normal shower. They use solar at the camps, solar hot water. So there's plenty of hot water. But some of the remote camps, it's probably hard to see the one on the left bottom. It's called a bucket shower. What they do is there's a bucket kind of up on the pole behind it. They lower the bucket down and they heat up water over an open fire and they pour the hot water in the bucket, and then they bring the bucket over, raise it up, and it's got a little tube that goes to the nozzle, and the cold water comes in from the cold water tank they have. So you have a pretty quick shower there because you run out of hot water pretty quick.
Sound like a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, something like that. But it works fine. And most of the camps we go to have a regular shower. They have a solar hot water heater and you get plenty of hot water. Most of the camps do run on solar, and they usually have 1 or 2 backup generators too. But there's no, power lines coming in. It's all separate power. It's either generator or solar.
And you can like get enough electricity to charge your batteries.
Yeah.
Charge your batteries, all that stuff.
Yeah, you can't do a lot. No hair dryers and stuff like that. Some of the camps have enough power where you probably could at times if you wanted to dry your hair with a hair dryer, but it's not something. My wife doesn't even bring one on the trip like that. You're out in the middle of nowhere. So, who cares what you look like? You wear the, the same clothes, the same fleece every day, same hat every day. But the accommodations are actually pretty normal. Here's a couple other shots.
How many huts are in one of these camps?
Anywhere from 4 to 8 usually. So it's not a lot. There's other guests in the camp, so you get to meet some interesting people who come in from Europe and all over the place. So it's pretty interesting. We went during COVID one year and we were the only people in camp, which was nice for us, but it wasn't good for them because they and the camps are all open. You know, there's no wire or electric fence around them or anything. So guests wander in. You see the elephants wander through. There's, you know, sometimes lions and leopards will come through the camp, and baboons are all over the place. You have to make sure you shut everything up before you go out, because the baboons will come in and wreak havoc on everything. Yeah, you don't want to leave food in your tent because they'll sense it. It's kind of like the deal with the bears. If you're going camping, you don't keep food in your tent. And this guy, this is the two bottom pictures are like each camp has like a little common area. I was sitting in the common area and this elephant just walked up, and I was probably not even 10 feet from him. And we just kind of stared at each other for a while and took some pictures, and then he just kind of wandered on. Not really. We've been charged by elephants, but you don't get out of the vehicle. When you're out in the vehicle, you don't get out of the vehicle. There was an idiot, I think it was last year. He wanted to get some low shots, so he climbed out of the truck. He was down taking pictures of a lion, and he ended up getting attacked by 2 or 3 lions. And his wife just sat in the truck watching her husband getting chewed up by lions. So you got to have some common sense. If you stay in the truck, they'll walk right by the truck, but they won't bother you. You don't want to, move around or do a lot of things like that. It's generally pretty safe. This is just a couple more camp pictures. The one on the upper left is our first trip in 1998. My wife took that picture back in the film days. That was one of the first camps we stayed at in Zambia. I think it was called 10 of 10 or something. The upper right is a picture in Tanzania out in the Serengeti. The lower right, Kalahari Plains in Botswana, kind of an open deserty area. We didn't see as many animals out there, so I probably wouldn't go back there, but it was interesting. It had they built a little deck on top. So at night I would go up there with my tripod and I would do some night photography, do some star. You can see the Southern Cross and some other different constellations on the other side of the equator, which are different from here. You can't see the Southern Cross from the Northern Hemisphere. And the lower left is basically breakfast. You can see the one pot under the fire, hot water for coffee. The black pot has oatmeal in it. We have oatmeal almost every morning. And then there's that little grill thing. They put bread in it and they just hold the bread over the fire and cook it like that. And that's basically your breakfast. The other meals in the camps are actually pretty nice. It's actually pretty amazing, the food they come up with. This is just another shot of this is one we did a while ago. This is all thatch and bamboo and wood. That's the basic truck we go out in, usually a Land Cruiser or a Land Rover. They like the Toyota, so it's usually Land Cruisers are a little better out there, actually. A lot of the time, we have a guide driving the truck all the time. A lot of times, we're the only ones with the guide, so we can do whatever we want. We just kind of drive all around looking for different creatures. They're pretty good. They can see the lion tracks on the ground, and they're pretty good tracking. So sometimes it's like a needle in a haystack, but they do a pretty good job finding things. And sometimes, there's other guests in the camp, so sometimes you'll have other guests in the truck with you, which is fine. Upper left, Botswana. One of my favorite areas, Okavango Delta area, is a really watery area. They build these little bridges over the wet areas with basically logs. pretty interesting. You can canoe. We went canoeing on that's from our trip this year on one of the little tributaries. We go up these little side tributaries, but they're still full of crocs and there's hippos and everything. So you still have to be a little careful. Lower right, a lot of times we'll go out on the Zambezi and the bigger rivers and the flatboats. And sometimes we'll just go on a walking tour. We'll just drive somewhere and we'll get out and we'll just kind of walk and take a look at things. Usually those walks you look and you're looking at trees and some of the smaller things you don't really notice when you're in the truck. We do have one guy will carry a gun just in case. Because it's not Disneyland out there. It can be dangerous. You can do hot air balloon. That's in Tanzania over the Serengeti. I did a hot air balloon ride over the Serengeti and that was amazing. I took that picture from the other balloon that we were in. And you just kind of go over the Serengeti and you can see all kinds of cool stuff.
In the balloon, do they let it come down closer?
Yeah, when we see stuff, we'll come down and see stuff and then they'll go up and you can see the expanse of things. And so they're kind of going up and down, up and down. We leave at sunrise. So you get these nice morning shots and you're up at about 2 hours, about 2 hours. I think it was around 2 hours or so. And then they just gently come down and they pick us up. Usually the last stop getting to the little dirt runways or near your camps, you're usually in a little Cessna or maybe sometimes a little bit bigger plane like a 10-seater. I don't know what that top plane is, but we've been in both. A lot of times the little Cessnas are great because I get to sit up in the right side next to the pilot. And if we see something on the ground, he'll let me open the window and he'll go down and bank it so I can go down and take pictures. So there's no FAA there. So kind of do what you want. It's down in the middle of nowhere. And at Victoria Falls, if you want to, you can do a bungee jump. That's from our second trip there. I did a bungee jump off the bridge at Victoria Falls. If you do go to Botswana, it's a nice way to end your trip is to go up to Victoria Falls. Yeah, it's a little bit kind of transition back to real world. You don't have to do a bungee jump, but you can go watch them. It's kind of fun.
I think I want a bungee jump to be the way I end my trips.
Well, I'm a skydiver, so it didn't bother me at all. So it's a lot of fun. People, I took this picture on my first trip to Zambia back in '98. Went to this little village with these little kids, and these kids were great. They had made these out of basically trash. They made these little car things that they pull around and they'd run around with them and have a great time with them. Just a lot of fun. Tanzania, you can see the Maasai tribe. You can go visit one of their villages if you want. We did that briefly. And then we were driving around and I shot a nomad group just going across the plains. Those are kind of like donkeys, I think. They just take everything with them and they'll plop down for a few days or a week or a month, and then they'll just pick up and move on again. Interesting. These are just some shots of people I took there. Guy on a little bamboo boat on Lake Victoria. And then there's a mother and her baby. We were in a little fishing village and the women are out there doing all the hard work. Guys are out there fishing, but the women do all the work. And that picture on the right is just a girl that was in one of the villages in Tanzania. Now the one on the right, I got best in show at the camera club last year with that picture. Mm-hmm. This is from our trip this last June, July. This is Changwei Camp. That's the Changwei River. And if you look all the way up in the upper right, that's the Zambezi River it feeds into. So this camp was right on where the Changwei River feeds into the Zambezi River. Really nice camp. I actually took this picture with iPhone with the pano shot. That comes out pretty good with it was an i14. So I don't take that many pictures with iPhone, but I wanted to get a wide shot. And that was a lot easier than taking my wide angle and, piecing it together later. These are some shots from the Cessna. You can see the shadow of the Cessna we were in. That's the one on the left is the Okavanga Delta. Very wet. Do a lot of stuff on boats there. If you like going out on boats and canoes, that's the place to go. Pretty amazing place. The right, that's the Zambezi River from there. I don't take my drone there because they don't like you having drones. It bothers the animals, and they know people, if they brought their drones, they'd be coming down on the animals and doing that stuff. They don't allow it. This is just a scene from, I think this is a little bigger, one of the 10-seater planes. So it's got some mountain areas and everything. That's the Zambezi River also. Interesting landscapes. Baobab tree on the upper left, that's kind of their famous tree in the southern part of Africa. Huge trees, pretty interesting. That's another shot from the balloon ride we did in Tanzania. That's the other balloon. And we were over where the migration of the wildebeest and everything was just kind of starting. It was kind of the early part of the migration. So it's all wildebeest and zebras in that crowd of animals on the ground there.
Is that a wide angle shot or is that another?
No, that's just a wide angle. I think it was like a 16 to 35 I used. The bottom one's Tanzania, kind of a famous place in Tanzania, Ngorongoro crater. Probably didn't say it right, but you go down in the crater and you can see probably one of the only places I've been able to see rhinos. There's some rhinos down there and some lions and typical creatures. It's also pretty crowded with other trucks. So wherever you are, you're going to see other trucks all over the place. But it's still an interesting area if you get to Tanzania. And sunsets there are always gorgeous. If you like taking sunset shots, you can get quite a few. And I'm just going to go through the different creatures we see there. This is a elephant. We were in one of those flatboats, and we were just sitting there watching this elephant on the side. And then all of a sudden he decides to cross and he's just coming right at us. And we waited till he got fairly close and then we had to move on because he was kind of keying in on us. I don't think he was happy with us being that close to him. More elephant shots. The upper left shot is, I think we got too close to one of his young ones and he charged us. So when I took this picture, the driver was backing up the Land Cruiser and I'm there taking pictures out the back as the thing's charging us. They love this middle one. They love to just laze around in the mud and get all wet and muddy. That was one of the younger ones, kind of climbing on top of his mom. And I was kind of amazed that, even the elephants in the wild can get up on their back too like that on the right picture. And the bottom one is just kind of a golden hour shot, late afternoon. We were in the boat and got a nice angle with the sun on them. Giraffes. I was lucky to see a 3-headed giraffe. It was kind of fun because they were all crowded together and they just, they were moving around and just caught them when they had their heads kind of split like that. The one in the upper left I actually took from the hot air balloon. The giraffe was just kind of running across the plain, so I got quite a few shots of, the giraffe just running. The one on the right, that giraffe probably took about 5 minutes looking around and sensing the area, because when they get down for a drink like that, they're very vulnerable. It takes them a little bit to get back up and run away. So they look around and check out the area for quite a while before they stop and get a drink. Some of the bigger animals, kudu, gemsbok. You'll see these in different areas. The kudu have all these incredible horns on them. Pretty interesting. You don't see quite as many of them as you do the impala and some of the other ones. These are water bucks. You can always recognize them easily by the little target on their butt. And apparently that's there for when they're walking through the brush and stuff, their young ones can follow them easier. That's what the guide told us. I don't know how true that is, but kind of makes sense. Hippos, probably one of the more dangerous animals. They're very deceiving and they can run really fast. It's amazing how fast they run. You can see how wide, I think they got one of the widest mouths of any animal. You can see they have kind of bizarre way their teeth are on the bottom. And then the upper right, that was taken from the hot air balloon. I titled that one, "Come on in, the water's fine."
But they're vegetarian, right?
What?
They're
Yeah.
vegetarian.
But they'll come at you, and they've killed a lot of people.
Yeah, they're
Probably
supposed to be
more
pretty-
than
they're
lions.
Supposed to be pretty nasty, aren't they?
They're not nice. Of course, the lower left one is kind of a tender moment. And then the view on the right, they get a little bit snippy with each other, and those two were fighting right in the middle of a whole bunch of them.
What do you mean, is that the algae in the water? In the
It
swag?
could be. It
I don't
could
know.
be. Yeah, it is a little green, so it could be.
Probably, yeah.
Because the water looks blue otherwise, but could be some algae. The zebras, the foals are they're kind of a brownish color when they're young, and then the stripes don't turn black till they get older. Kind of interesting. The lower left was kind of hysterical. That was in Ngorongoro crater. This zebra was on this rock, and he was just rocking back and forth, scratching his stomach. Then he backed up and he was scratching his head on the rock, and there was another one waiting. And when he was done, the other one came up and did. It was hysterical. My wife's got a little video of that on her phone. It's kind of funny. And zebra are very skittish of crocs. So when they're in the water, they're very, very skittish. Because the crocs, that's usually when the crocs get the zebras, or when they're in the water trying to get a drink. Top one was another balloon shot. That's part of the migration of the wildebeest. There's a close-up of the wildebeest. This was taken after we were back on the ground after the balloon ride. We went down, I was taking pictures, of the wildebeest running by. And they have these big buffalo. They're all over the place. This is also in the Ngorongoro crater. The only place I've actually seen rhino. These are the black rhino. And there were a few of them in there. But they're kind of few and far between, so if you want to see a rhino, you need to be a little picky about where you go, because most places you will not see them. Small mammals. These guys are kind of fun to watch, the baboons. This guy was just sitting there, and I had the camera on him, and he was just staring right at me. I did that. I black and white everything except the eyes on it. No good. What? This color. These are more baboons. Those two on the left are sitting on top of a termite mound. They're looking very pensive and thoughtful. And this guy in the middle, he's fine. He just sat there and posed perfectly still. He even covered up his private parts so he could get published. And then a lot of times the babies will ride on top, and other times they'll hang, and they're hanging underneath. But they're kind of fun to watch. Baboons, you can see you don't want to hook up with one of them because they got some nasty teeth, and they can be pretty nasty. And the one on the right, I titled that one, "That Can't Be Comfortable." He sat there for a few minutes. I don't know. We were just kind of baffled how he could just sit there. I don't know. It was kind of funny. Impala, different type. The one on the upper right, I guess he was born with a little genetic defect because one of his horns is all off.
Hmm.
You know, the males have the horns and the females don't. And you see on the bottom, the males fighting over the females. Too much testosterone, I guess. Springbok, they're similar to the impala, but they're a little bit different. Wild dogs. This is from our last trip. I've got the whole sea, like on the bottom, these 4 water bucks were standing. We pulled up in this kind of open area that was near this little stream of water. There was 4 water bucks there, so we figured that'd be a good place to stop because we stopped for tea or coffee in the morning, like mid-morning. So we stopped there, and these 4 water bucks are standing by the water. And all of a sudden, these 2, 3 wild dogs came running out of the bush, and 3 of the water bucks ran away. One of them froze, and they proceeded to attack it. Within,
This young one, or is that a mature?
it's probably in between. It doesn't look older than some of the other ones. But I've got pictures of that whole sequence. If you want to see the whole sequence, I put it on my website. It's pretty graphic. Had the thing gutted in less than a minute and a half.
So what he's carrying over here on the right.
Is
that's
a
the
impala
one
leg.
He attacked.
That's from a different time. Before that, they attacked the impala, and I guess he won the leg. And the one on the left, I just took that picture and turned off all the colors except red just to make the red stand out. But they're just tearing apart it looked like it, probably an impala. But they can be they're pretty vicious. And then the dik-diks, they're only about this tall. Really, he's standing on the side of a termite mound. And the warthogs, they're not so cute. They got all this, weird hair all over them and everything. They're a little skittish, a little bit harder to take pictures of. But the jackal, another interesting animal. What I try and do, I always try and get the animals looking at me. You get the eye contact for pictures. So I'm usually pretty patient waiting. And when they start looking my direction or they see the lens or something, that's when I take a picture. You get much better pictures, I think, when you get the eye contact. Spotted hyena. And then the cute little ground squirrels are always standing on their back 2 legs for some reason. Kind of like the meerkats, but they're a little different. Everybody's favorite when they go, they always want to go. The first thing they want to see are the lions. This is an old male. You can see, if you look at it close, you can see all the scars on his face from all the different times they've been out hunting. Female lion up in the upper corner, upper left. And then a male in the bottom middle. Always is used, just waiting to get the eye contact. Picture on the upper right, hard picture to take with autofocus. So I had to go to manual focus for that. I go to manual focus, especially with the digital. You can zoom in 10 times. And I just go for the eye and just focus it right on the eye manually and take the shots that way. Because the autofocus, you just move a little bit and it'll jump and pick up a piece of grass or something. So those are sometimes a little bit challenging. Lion cubs. They're cute, but you look at the one in the lower left and that's, you wouldn't want to pet it because they're not very nice. They'll play together. And then we were sitting watching on the upper right, we were sitting watching a group of lions, a lot of cubs running around playing. This lion came up, was sniffing at the front wheel and grabbed the mud flap and just was tugging on the mud flap and ripped the mud flap off the truck. And we're just sitting in the truck watching it. You can see the guide there. He took a movie with his iPhone. It was hysterical. And then he took the mud flap and he's running around. And other cubs are trying to get it and they're playing with it. There must have been something on it that attracted them, but it was kind of funny. I've never seen him attack a truck before. Leopards, one of my favorite animals to shoot. Again, getting the eye contact. The one in the upper left, he was up in a tree during the day. The baboons kind of taunt the leopards during the day. The leopard was up in the tree and all the baboons were up there and they were kind of charging at a little bit and making a lot of noise. And this guy eventually got fed up with it. He climbed down a little bit, and just as he was jumping off to another tree, I got that shot. And got him. The one on the lower left is a little bit angry. I replaced the sky in that just to make it a little more dramatic on the lower left. I usually don't do that, but I did it on that picture. Cheetah. Cheetahs are also fun to watch, and they are fast when you see them out there running in the open. Again, getting the eye contact. The way to recognize the cheetah is the black teardrop that comes out of the eye. You can see the black line coming out of the eye. That's the easy way to identify the cheetah as opposed to a leopard. Pretty much. The cheetahs seem a little more sleeker, slender. Birds, if you like birds, it's an amazing place to go. I've got a book that's that thick, Birds of Southern Africa. There's just so many different kind of birds. This is one of my favorite to photograph because it's got all those pastel-y colors on it. A lot like breasted roller. There's just a splattering of different ones. African jacana on the lower left. The locals call it the Jesus bird because it appears to be walking on water because it walks on the lily pads. The bee eater with one of its favorite snacks in its mouth, a bee. And then the lapwing and the kingfisher. Kingfishers are fun to watch because they'll hover over the water, maybe 10, 15 feet over the water, and then they'll just dive down and get the fish and come back up. That's always been my goal, is to try and get them just as they touch the water, but you have to go. Takes a lot of patience to get that. I've only gotten a few of those shots in my lifetime. Gray crowned cranes, they're kind of interesting. The marabou stork, probably one of the ugliest birds I've ever seen. If you look at its head close, it's got these kind of weird hair coming out. Looks like an 85, 90-year-old man with, a little bit of hair. The hammerkop kind of looks like the alien head a little bit. And cormorants, they're all over the place in the water.
Are storks, they're like carrying features like vultures are? Because storks, the ones that are in the United States do that are really ugly with masks that are not feathered. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's just some more of the different kind of stork, the one in the lower left. Ostrich, they're kind of nasty animals. Probably about at least 5 feet, probably like this.
That's do these animals smell a lot? I mean, when you're out there,
Not really.
Or the animals have odors.
Not really. Now, if you come across a dead animal, that smell is pretty bad. And the ibises are all over the place too. There's the vulture. Vultures are around, especially if there's any if you see the vultures around, there's a dead animal somewhere. And if there's a dead animal, there's usually lions or leopards or something chowing down on it. So sometimes they're a good way to find something. Little cardinal woodpecker is kind of a neat looking bird with his little red head. Cardinal, maybe about like that. Just about this, maybe slightly better than our woodpeckers we have here. Fish eagle, we just got a catch out of the water. One of the tributaries I think we're on. The thick-knee, I just put this in here because it's kind of unusual. He's got the biggest eyes most birds don't have eyes that big, and he's got these big yellow eyes. Kind of an interesting looking bird. And they're just hundreds and hundreds of different kind of birds. The hoopoe, they're pretty neat looking too. The body kind of has that orange and black kind of spotty thing on it too. And owl, that was on a night drive. I went out on a night drive and got just a picture of an owl. I don't know what kind of owl it is. I looked in the book, but I couldn't figure out which one it was, so I didn't put it down. Other creatures. This croc was inland, maybe 300-400 yards inland, away from the water. There was a dead elephant, and he was chowing down on an elephant, and he was so engorged with food, he could hardly move. He walked like 4 or 5 steps, and he'd plop down, and he'd walk a little bit more and plop down because he was so full. If you look close, you could probably see a little bit of blood on his mouth, but this is when he finally made it back to the water. We just kind of followed him back. And there's usually like little trails down into the water where the hippos come up and down. So it's almost like a little slide, and that's what he was looking for. But he got close to the edge and kind of missed it. And he went over and just flopped over the edge, landed on his back, and rolled over and went back and just went into the water. This is a croc. We came across this dead elephant. The guy thought the elephant just died of natural causes there, from what they thought. When we got there in the morning, the lions were all on top of the dead elephant. There was like 3 or 4 lions on top, kind of having a little meal. And then we came back later in the morning. We drove around somewhere else and came back. And the lions were chased off when the crocs showed up, because the lions don't like the crocs. So the lions were just kind of huddled up on the shore, just kind of sitting there. And the crocs were kind of chowing down. There was probably 15 to 20 crocs at that time. They do have tortoises there. I haven't seen too many, but did see a couple. Lizards. You look close, some of the lizards just have spectacular little color on it. If you look at them close, you can just see a lot of color. The water monitor. See them once in a while.
How big is it?
Maybe like three, yeah, at least about 3 feet maybe. The tail's pretty long too. The mongoose, those things are a pain to photograph. They don't sit still. They're incredibly skittish. A lot of times I see one, and before I get my camera up, they're gone. And this guy, I just got my camera up, clicked it, and he was gone. I don't have that many pictures of these guys because they're really hard to do. Just some non-animal is butterfly. Actually, I took that with a long lens. Kind of a white butterfly. I thought that was kind of a cool butterfly. And the red hot poker, that was down, and we went down to Cape Town. We kind of decompressed down in Cape Town after a trip sometimes and go hang out there for a couple of days. And I thought that plant was kind of interesting. I'm not really a plant person. Now you can probably tell me all about the plants, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. And that's it. Any questions? I have, but I don't anymore because I do everything handheld. I do bring a monopod though, because sometimes there's a couple places where they have hides, like they had the one hide where there's, where all the hippos were. So I just put my camera on a monopod there just to steady it a little bit in the hide instead of trying to hold it all the time.
And what's your longest size?
600.
600.
I've got the Sony 200 to 600 I use now. So I can get pretty good range with that. It's pretty heavy, but I'm still okay with it. I'm still okay hand holding it, so it's not too bad. The strap goes on the lens and not the camera, because the camera is just nothing compared to the lens. Especially the newer mirrorless cameras don't weigh anything. So.
Harold, are the animals skittish, or are they so used to humans they just?
Some are skittish, some are not. The lions, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
They know you're not going to mess with them.
Yeah.
But we'll pull up right next to them, and we've had them just walk. I've had them walk right by the truck where I could reach out and pet if I was stupid enough to do that. But I've had them walk by close, and first time people there, the first time get a little bit scared sometimes when they get close. Because there have been instances where they have jumped into the truck and attacked somebody, but it's pretty rare. It's usually somebody, you don't stand up and, if you're moving around a lot, they see a lot of motion, they may go for it. But if you're just sitting there and you're just taking pictures, and it's relatively safe.
Relatively.
Well, nothing's guaranteed out in the wild. But anyway. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Harold. Let's take a couple minute break and then we'll have some photo share. Walk around. Man.
Any grandma can.
Yeah.
Thumb drive.
What I wonder is, how much do these trips cost? Wow. You can't afford it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Petitions.
Yeah.
State for.
But that's.
Yeah, well, yes. Geographic guys.
Well, Tracy and David went last year. That's probably not on the report last year. And they thought it was wonderful. And they were with a where they actually did photography. Nice playground. But they thought it was great. It was so expensive. Yeah. 16 hours.
Yeah, I thought so. It's heavy, it's small enough.
Yeah, first class.
Big hard bag.
And you're tiny. I
know. Jam on. But my camera bag is pretty good. Walk around the airport and all that. Don't have to strap on. That's crazy. I can go like that.
What airlines? Oh, right.
A lot of the guests I see in the camp nowadays. They've only got a time.
I was a big plane.
You're kidding. We don't see a lot of people with no cameras anymore.
I know, it's really packed in.
Yes.
They assume even.
And then everybody is bringing like huge carry-ons too.
Yeah.
Well, nobody prints anything.
Yeah.
anymore,
Well, I just invested in this.
Right, yeah.
And you can shoot raw, it goes up to 200mm.
Is that like R100?
Yes, RX7. And
I just wonder
yeah.
I have one of those. Okay. Pretty good.
Sure. Especially when you're traveling with those.
She is a chronic.
Yeah.
You don't want to time to get your bag out, it's pretty, everybody else is kind of like, so. What? Exactly, well,
Sometimes you're. Children enjoy the scene.
exactly, and we hardly use this area. I don't need I would love to work this out in Sarasota.
I was just thinking, when I first got my truck, I had my old, should say my old prior camper,
and never had any trouble with it. It came from the brakes. I got the new truck. It would click, 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 click. Sometimes they wouldn't work. For whatever reason, they'd start working again. So I took it back to the dealer a number of times, and then it wasn't. I didn't have that truck. I guess about a year, and then it came. And they always said, "Oh, it's a trailer." I never had trouble with it. Then when I got the new camper, it still had the same problem. So I took it to a different dealer, and they found a problem with the ground. The ticket said loose ground. So I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, I don't,
I think yours is probably a lot more involved.
yeah, I think it is. I tried it on my son's truck to make sure it wasn't mine. I mean, on his trailer to make sure it wasn't mine. Trailer. And then still the same.
We got a bunch of folks here.
Yeah, we got quite a few.
Okay, I guess we better get going then.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get some photo share going. Morning. The challenge was beauty, but anything accepted. Okay, Kim? I'm sure somebody has an answer. What is? Yeah. This is Nancy. Speak up so everybody can hear.
That's my picture. It's a multiple nine exposure picture at BMFA.
Very good.
And I just brought back the cloud.
See if I work here.
Okay.
Work in the system. And
Maybe not. I did a lot of dodging and burning to make it, suck you into the picture, so to speak.
Wow.
A ICM. That picture was so cool.
Is it?
Yeah, that's multiple exposure at the Tuckahoe Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Nancy helped me learn how to do multiple exposures out there. She's a very good teacher.
Well, we should, yeah, okay. Good.
A flower. Reflections in a ICM at the kindergarten. I think that's it. Yep.
That's good. Thank you.
Preschool has to test the fire alarm. It's gonna go doo doo, and that's it. No
Okay.
need, you don't have to go anywhere. It's not a fire drill. It's just gonna be a doo doo. Okay.
Okay.
If you want to leave, you can. Single file, one. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Who? Ah,
This is in,
Shenandoah, a couple of years ago. Nice fall day. It's a butterfly out of the whiskey and turf in the children's garden. I'd say, the chrysanthemum that I talked a couple of weeks ago. And that's another shot of that same chrysanthemum in black and white. This was on the 29th of September, after all of the rain. I went out to Crabtree Falls there, and there was a lot of water. And so I started up the falls, and the next picture is a little bit further up.
Good job.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
She said, yeah.
Thanks for
So,
the,
and this was the sunrise down in Emerald Isle last year. This was a nice picture. I kind of like that one. This is my attention camera mode.
Okay.
Yeah. This was in Lewis, or in Shenandoah. Those are hawthorn trees, blooming in the spring, and I did an potential camera movement of that one. I took this a few years ago up in Kankakee, and it was just a sunrise, and there wasn't that much else in the water. I just cleaned out everything else and just made it black and white. This is a dahlia from my garden. I like it. But
That focus stack on?
that is. So is that. Taking it from a different angle. This was the sunrise down in yeah, a while back, and it was a morning where the sun finally came up, and it was like it was must have been some fog out on the horizon because it came up and just really pastel. These are ranunculus flowers that I picked up. I think these were from Lakeland a couple of weeks ago. These are reflections out at Lewis Ginder. And this is a reflection in Manteo. And that's a sunrise down in Kitty Hawk Pier. Just waiting for the sun to come up. And this is a toad lily. I don't know who names these things, but I think that's either insulting toads or lily, but it's a pretty little flower. And this was the same day I went to Crabtree Falls. I went up to Shenandoah, and this is the Upper Doyle River Falls. That's more water flowing there than I've ever seen at that waterfall. And this is an anemone or a Japanese windflower.
thanks, Tom.
I think it's been wrong. There really is an objective definition. My son went to school with a young man from Cyprus. This is his stepfather. The graduation had such a great day. I asked him, like, little metallic green sweaty. This is a probably obviously on a wild coreopsis. I think that's come out in September. sometimes you can get fog to white out all the background noise and.
Oh, that's what, yeah.
That's in Hopewell.
Oh,
Marina. You're a swallow. Everybody likes butterfly, dragonfly. Another one in here. How about his hands? Sometimes long exposure to bring in the next one's and reveal patterns and colors that.
Yeah.
Don't see. This is a 30-second exposure thing that's also down. Well.
That's-
The shot of the marina.
I like that.
Sometimes you can find patterns in. I like the contrast. Your actual shades. Less storm, cloud.
Oh, yeah.
The colors, the oil drops, the water.
Mhm.
I like industrial.
You like the industrial stuff? Yeah.
The lines. Curves, highlights and shadows, interplay. Creating interesting photo. Beautiful. This is about 40 years old. This is it was very first cousin place removed. Everybody likes a bright red airplane. Stop.
Nice.
That's it within the existence. This in Southwest Virginia. Music festival. Great Fall Park. He was the guitar player with the Merle Haggard band for a long time. Yeah, very interesting. It's beautiful. So it is stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes the photo gods give you a gift. And I thought, well. There's another old one, 40 some years ago, my wife's sister, we were at the White Sculpture Spring. This is the more contrived beauty. I think she has calculated every detail of her outfit here, the accent, the different style. I think that's her display. And that's just to contrast the rectilinear bricks with the formless cloud and just use a couple of colors and come up with something. Okay.
I like that.
Very cool.
Great, great. I was really intrigued. I was waiting to see different definitions of beauty.
Went to my high school 60th reunion, and this is one of my classmates. And it shows that even though you might have a couple years old, you can still look pretty. They were at this table and chatting, and I walked up to them and I said, "Hey, could you just kind of point at each other and give this kind of expression?" And they said, "Sure." And so anyway, they were having a good time. I think most of them were on the old softball team that they had in high school, so they had They live in, very different parts of the country, so they're closer on Facebook now than when they were in school together. And, they were just glad to see each other in person. This is taken in Frederick, Maryland. It's an infrared picture. And it's at the cemetery where Francis Scott Key is buried.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows where this is, so I need to comment on it. Yeah, well, so this was along the Turquoise Trail in New Mexico. In New Mexico, and we happened to get off the beaten path and see this beautiful old church that was there of the mission, and I just happened to catch it right with the infrared camera.
The rainbow.
Yeah, this is in the bar, Florida sunset at the RV park. St. Augustine, we were just walking around. I don't remember where this was. And just in many places. I don't know if that's in Monument Valley or one of the places. This is Monument Valley. I've got a couple of shots here. That's the road there that Forrest Gump ran on. When he came down, he stopped. I don't know if you remember the movie, but it's, if you go, I guess, if from where we're sitting down that road about a third in there, that's where he stopped. And they had to put signs up there so that you could, you know, commemorating the place, but they keep stealing the signs. Now, on this road, okay, even though it's a single lane road, the speed limit is 75 miles an hour. And back where I'm standing, I'm actually standing up on this little hill there. That's like, one's like a little valley between the where the road goes through. And it's the perfect place to take the shot. And people get out there with tripods and heaven knows what, and stand in the middle of the road. And all these vehicles are whizzing by at 75 miles an hour. Okay, and we were horrified at a few of them. I mean, they wouldn't move. And so I said, I don't know, I'm getting up on the hill, so I still got that shot and took some photographic license there with the Photoshop. That's the same shot with a vertical, and I made it in black and white. This is Chaco Canyon, and I was amazed at the workmanship on these luminous, where they put the rough blocks on the inside and the smooth ones on the outside. And the fact they had no beasts of burden back there, no horses or oxen or anything. This was all done by hand. And you can really see the difference between the stones on the inside and on the outside of the that was taken in the American Museum. Yeah, American Cowboy Museum or something in what was that, Oklahoma? Yeah, and can you imagine the workmanship that it was done by, I think, the Navajos, with all of the beads that went into there. Look like Darth Vader. Yeah.
Very colorful.
Yeah. This was in Oklahoma City, and this is at the bombing site. And what you see there, through there is, of course, the reflecting pool between the two structures, one on this side, one on the other. And those little things behind those trees there are like little chairs, or some of them small ones for the babies, and you know, the bigger they were, the full size. Each one represents a victim that died there. Very moving place. This sits on the other side of the road of it, and it's it was one of the most difficult things I ever had to process because of all of the distractions that were behind the stoplights and people and cars and everything. So I had to isolate it. And it represents the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept.
Thanks, Paul. Oh, these are mine. This is, I remember this one now. Again, just, some different ideas about beauty. This is, I forget, sunset or sunrise downtown. Nancy, you still remember that one?
Unbelievable color that night. Memorable.
That is not processed. That is, and Nancy and I were down there and we hit a time when the sun was bouncing
I've never
perfectly,
seen color like that before.
perfectly. And that's just what it looked like. Ely Cathedral in England. Car shows. Car shows are great fun. Front end of an old, Plymouth? An old Plymouth. I just like the lines. Again, antique car. Can't go wrong with antique cars. Oh, this is beauty of a different form. Close up of an apple, obviously.
The black background, or did you just isolate it and make the background?
Black background.
I knew that.
Just wandering through a fabric store with my wife and rolls of fabric piled up. I like the different colors. Down along the James, somewhere or other. And these are the usual. If I always urge people to go to the Jackson Board Festival every year because fantastic outfits, colors, and so forth. These are some of my favorites from, what was it, last weekend, I guess, 2 weekends ago. Busy on her phone with her cigarette and wonderful hat, great face, great hat, and earrings. She was listening to a band, and again, I just thought, well, great hair, beautiful hair, and a beard. He was just sitting there out by the wall, and he saw me with the camera, and he gave me the victory sign, and I just thought that with the reflection in his glasses, that was my idea of beauty. Just a beautiful face. And she was a singer, and she played the violin and sang, and I just thought she was a beautiful young lady. And that's my idea of beauty.
So this is my photos. A couple weekends ago, I snuck out for a morning kayaking paddle. That is at, give me if I butcher the name, Maki Komoko State Park in Gloucester County. So that's in a little protected inlet with a duck blind overlooking the York River. So, as I was taking that photo, that osprey there basically dive bombed me. They're trying to get the fish. It's kind of hard to see from this angle. If you look closely enough on the branch, you can still see the fish is lodged between his talon and the branch there. Yeah, by the time I reoriented my kayak and got my telephoto lens out, he was well off in the trees, so about as close I could get to that picture, but turned out okay, I guess. This is also in Makikomogo State Park. That is, if I recall the name correctly, Timber Neck Mansion or Timber Neck Plantation. It's basically gutted on the inside, but it's undergoing active restoration. That's pretty with the flowers and butterflies and the bees flying over the place, and a pretty crowded day. So this was taken at Sailors Creek State Historical Park. There was a Civil War reenactment that took place there a couple weeks ago. So that picture is taken from inside the camp of the, if I recall, the 2nd Rhode Island Infantry Regiment, right before the battle. You get the ominous weather, the dark clouds. It never rained, but it's kind of like the contrast, the clouds and the grasses and the tent. As it turned out, I missed most of the battle because I was eating all their leftover food in the camp. They were desperately trying to clear everything out, so we were going to leave right after the battle. But I got there right at the end. So this is just after the battle is over, and it's a Union cavalry officer and his horse celebrating the victory. I believe, my history is kind of rusty, but Sailors Creek would have been the last significant battle of the Eastern campaign of the Civil War, taking place just a couple of days before the surrender of Appomattox. And this is my last photo. One night I was taking a walk down the Duke of Gloucester Street in Williamsburg, and I believe that's the Episcopal Church there.
Bruton
Parish, I believe. Yeah, so I like the lights and worked on my night photography book there. So those are my photos.
Is that Peter?
Right.
This is one of mine. This is a wood duck, which I think is very gorgeous. And this is a mandarin duck, which I think is probably the only duck that's prettier than a wood duck.
Where did you get that cat?
This was at Sylvan Heights.
Oh, the bird
Bird-
center. Down in
Bird
North
sanctuary down in
Yeah.
down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And this is also from there. It's the bird now. It's Sylvan Heights Bird Park down in what's the town? It's like 120 miles from here. It's just down in northern
About a
North
2-hour
Carolina.
drive.
Huh?
2-hour drive.
Yeah, 2-hour ride. I love him. You can't tell you don't see the red on the wingtips until they fly.
Oh, this is mine. This was at a birding trip I went on 2 years ago. And we got to participate in this bird banding that was going on, where they would catch the birds in these mist nets, and then they would put bands on them, and then release them again. And so the participants like me got to hold the birds momentarily before they were released. And this was this sweet lady that was on the trip, and she was just really enjoying the experience, which we all did. I thought she was real pretty.
Yeah.
A couple of killdeer, a killdeer mama and baby, and killdeer babies, the one on the right. They're like they're little tiny birds that look like a little cotton ball on toothpicks. Lotus is, who doesn't love a lotus? That was a cantrip. This was on a trip I recently took, where I stayed at Blackwater Falls State Park in West Virginia, which is a gorgeous place. And if you're looking for someplace to go, they have a really nice lodge there. I'm not a camper. And so it's the facilities are really nice. And this was at on one of the shorter hikes. It's a beautiful place. Yeah. And this is my granddaughter, and I'm not partial or anything, but I think she's beautiful. Well, and she was wearing she was a unicorn princess because she had a tiara and a unicorn headband on at the same time. Along with many necklaces and bracelets.
And that's all. The photos here.
That's it? Okay, great.
I have
I sent you some photos. Did you ever receive them? I emailed them to you.
No, I did not, and I even looked in my spam folder to see if there were any that I maybe done.
Take it. You never know. Thanks, everybody, and a reminder that if you have a photograph in the library to show, send it to me also. I would like to use it in the newsletter because not everybody's going to be able to get to the show. And I think it would be fun to share everybody's vision. Other than that, we will meet here again next time. This, I guess, does anybody have a problem with this? No. The people who did, well, I know several people, well, I know one of them has a broken vertebrae in his neck and is unable to do this. So, there's, it's a little long time, but the facilities are great and the screen, I think, does nice things for our photographs. So we'll see you next time. Thank you.
That's Labor Day, our Veterans Day, November 11th.
Is what?
Veterans Day, November 11th.
Is this going to be closed, do you think?
Oh, no, it'd be minor, I just wanted to let people know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so November 11th here, same time, same channel.
And I will not be here, so we will not have Zoom. On November 11th, I will be on my last camping trip of the year.
Can Ed do something or is he?
I'll see if Ed will do the photos there.
Okay, all right.
And let y'all know when
All right, thanks, everybody.
I'm doing the presentation, so people could send stuff to me and I can do the photo share.
Can I borrow your
I
photographs?
can put that in.
Yeah.
I'd like to use a couple of your pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That'll work.
Send it to you.
Madge, I have your photographs. I got them. You had three
I'll just need to connect to my.
black and white city photographs. Okay.